Black screen. Sound. Deep underwater. Brutally. Heartbeat. Distant mechanical hum. Then, crack. A depth charge. Close. The screen shutters. White text appears. Letter by letter. January 4, 1940. Wewak Harbor, New Guinea. 200 feet below the surface. USS Wahoo. SS-238. The engine room is hell. 142 degrees Fahrenheit. Metal so hot you can't touch it. The air tastes like diesel and fear. 4 men in soaked shirts, hands on the throttles. They've been here for 14 hours. Above them, a Japanese destroyer, circling, hunting, crack, another depth charge. Closer, the hull flexes. Rivets pop like gunshots. A light bulb explodes, glass rains down. The youngest engineman is 19. Farm kid from Iowa. He looks at the gauge. Engine temperature redlining, oil pressure dropping. He looks at the chief. The chief doesn't blink. Hold her steady. Crack, crack, 2 more. The submarine rolls hard to starboard. Men grab anything bolted down. The engines scream, full power. Evading, diving deeper. But they don't quit. 4 Fairbanks-Morse 38D 818 diesels. 10 tons each. 1,600 horsepower. 800 parts. Built 6 months earlier in Wisconsin by women. Women who'd never seen a diesel engine before December 1942. Women who worked 12-hour shifts measuring tolerances to 1/1000th of an inch. Women who understood that somewhere, somehow, a sailor's life would depend on whether they got it right. They got it right. Oh, who survives? All 79 men make it home that day. The engines run another 8 months, 7 war patrols, depth charge attacks, 100-hour runs, combat conditions that destroy lesser machines. They never fail. Not once, 81 years later. San Francisco, Pier 45, today. The morning fog still clings to the water when the volunteer unlocks the hatch. He's 73, retired submariner. Navy cap pulled low. He's done this 1,000 times, but his hands still move with reverence. USS Pampanito, Balao-class submarine, 311 feet of American steel. She's been here since 1982. Museum ship now. But once she hunted in the Pacific, down the ladder, through the forward torpedo room, past the crew's mess, into the engine room. 4 diesel engines stand in rows. Fairbanks-Morse 38D 818, each one 10 tons, each one capable of 1,600 horsepower. Built in 1943, Beloit, Wisconsin, 81 years ago. The volunteer runs his hand along engine number 3. The metal is cool, worn smooth by decades of maintenance. He checks the oil, opens the fuel line, sets the controls. Then he reaches for the starter. First turn, compression stroke. The pistons move upper and lower, opposed, meeting in the middle of each cylinder like fists coming together. Second turn, cylinder 1 fires. The engine coughs. Black smoke curls from the exhaust. Then it catches, settles. Purrs, 81 years old. It runs like it was built yesterday. A family stands watching. Father, mother, 2 kids. The boy, maybe 12, stares wide-eyed. The father's hand rests on his son's shoulder. On the bulkhead, there's a visitor comment book. The pages are filled with names, messages, memories. June 2024. Someone wrote, "My father served on Pampanito 1944-45, died 1989. Always said, those engines saved my life. I'm 78 now. Brought my grandson 12. Wanted him to see what Americans could build when we needed to." The volunteer kills the engine. Silence floods back. But the question hangs in the air. How does an 81-year-old engine still run perfectly? How does something built in 1943 by a company that made windmills, by women who'd never seen a diesel before, outlast everything that came after? The answer starts in a place you wouldn't expect. Vermont, 1823. San Francisco, Pier 45, today. The morning fog still clings to the water when the volunteer unlocks the hatch. He's 73. Retired submariner, Navy cap pulled low. He's done this 1,000 times, but his hands still move with reverence. USS Pampanito, Balao-class submarine, 311 feet of American steel. She's been here since 1982. Museum ship now. But once she hunted in the Pacific, down the ladder, through the forward torpedo room, past the crew's mess, into the engine room. 4 diesel engines stand in rows. Fairbanks-Morse 38D 818, each one 10 tons, each one capable of 1,600 horsepower. Built in 1943, Beloit, Wisconsin, 81 years ago. The volunteer runs his hand along engine number 3. The metal is cool, worn smooth by decades of maintenance. He checks the oil, opens the fuel line, sets the controls, then he reaches for the starter. First turn, compression stroke. The pistons move, upper and lower, opposed, meeting in the middle of each cylinder like fists coming together. Second turn to one fires. The engine coughs. Black smoke curls from the exhaust. Then it catches, settles, purrs, 81 years old. It runs like it was built yesterday. A family stands watching, father, mother, 2 kids. The boy, maybe 12, stares wide-eyed. The father's hand rests on his son's shoulder. On the bulkhead, there's a visitor comment book. The pages are filled with names, messages. Memories, June 2024. Someone wrote, "My father served on Pampanito, 1944-45, died 1989. Always said, 'Those engines saved my life.' I'm 78 now. Brought my grandson, 12. Wanted him to see what Americans could build when we needed to." The volunteer kills the engine. Silence floods back. But the question hangs in the air. How does an 81-year-old engine still run perfectly? How does something built in 1943 by a company that made windmills, by women who'd never seen a diesel before, outlast everything that came after? The answer starts in a place you wouldn't expect, Vermont. 1823. Thaddeus Fairbanks wasn't trying to change the world. He was trying to weigh hemp. His brother Erastus ran a small ironworks in St. Johnsbury. They made plows, heating stoves, the usual stuff. Thaddeus had started a hemp dressing business, and he needed a way to weigh the bundles accurately. The problem was simple: steelyard scales. The kind everyone used were unreliable. You had to balance the weight. Guess, adjust, guess again. For bulk shipping, for commerce, for anything that mattered, it was a nightmare. So Thaddeus built something new, a platform scale. The weight sat on a flat platform. Underneath, a system of levers multiplied the force. A single counterweight could measure tons, and it was accurate, precise, repeatable. He patented it in 1832. Within a generation, E&T Fairbanks and Company was selling thousands of scales, first across America, then Europe, South Imperial China. They won 63 medals in international competitions. By the 1870s, Fairbanks scales were the standard. If you shipped by rail or sea, you used a Fairbanks scale. If you bought grain or coal or cotton by weight, you trusted Fairbanks. They were the best in the world. Then Charles Morse showed up. Morse was a salesman. Started selling Fairbanks scales out of Cincinnati in the 1860s. He was good at it. Built his own distribution network, expanded to Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Louisville. By 1870, he'd moved to Chicago and become a partner. Morse saw what Thaddeus Fairbanks had seen. If you built quality, people would pay for it. But Morse also saw something else: opportunity. In Beloit, Wisconsin, a former missionary named Leonard Wheeler had designed a windmill, a good one, the Eclipse windmill. Durable, reliable, perfect for pumping water on prairie farms where the wind never stopped blowing. Morse brought Wheeler into the business. 1880. Fairbanks-Morse and Company began making windmills in Beloit, then pumps, then small engines, because farmers needed backup power when the wind died. The company grew, diversified. By 1910, their catalog was 800 pages thick: typewriters, hand trucks, railway equipment, industrial supplies. If you needed it, Fairbanks-Morse probably made it. But their reputation was still built on 2 things: precision and reliability. The shift to engines happened slowly. Then all at once, after Rudolph Diesel's American patents expired in 1912, Fairbanks-Morse entered the diesel business. They started with the Model Y semi-diesel, workhorse stuff, sugar mills, rice mills, timber operations. 1924, the YVA, first high-compression, cold-start diesel engine developed entirely in America, no foreign patents. Built and Baloo loved them. So did oil field operators. They were simple, tough, ran forever. But the company was still known for windmills, still seen as a farm equipment manufacturer, still underestimated. Then, In the early 1930s, an engineer at Fairbanks-Morse read about something happening in Germany. Hugo Junkers was a genius, aircraft designer, engine innovator. He developed something radical, an opposed-piston diesel engine. Most engines have one piston per cylinder. It moves down on the intake stroke, up on compression, down on power, up on exhaust. Simple, but you need valves, cylinder heads, camshafts, complexity. Junker's design was different. Two pistons per cylinder, no cylinder head, no valves. Each piston moves toward the other. They meet in the middle. Combustion happens between them. The expanding gases drive both pistons apart. One uncovers the exhaust ports, the other uncovers the intake ports, scavenging and power in one elegant motion. The advantages were stunning. Fewer parts, better thermal efficiency, more power for the same size and weight, simpler maintenance. Junkers put them in aircraft. The Jumo 205. It worked, but the engine was too heavy for aviation, too narrow in its power band. The design was brilliant. The application was wrong. Fairbanks-Morse saw something else. You scaled it properly, adapted it for marine use, made it reliable. It could revolutionize submarine engines. They bought the license. Early 1930s, right before the Nazis forced Junkers out of his own company, right before war made such cooperation impossible. They brought the design to Beloit, and they started building. The engineers worked for years, adapting, testing, redesigning. The first prototypes were disasters, cooling problems, vibration issues, parts that failed under stress. But they kept refining. By 1938, they had it. 38D818. The designation was simple, introduced in 1938. Bore diameter 8 1/8 inches. Stroke 10 inches. Available in 4 to 12 cylinder configurations. For submarines, they built the 10-cylinder version, 1,600 horsepower. 800 parts, half the number in competing engines. It was compact, powerful, and on paper it looked incredibly reliable. The Navy was interested, but there was a problem. Fairbanks-Morse made windmills. When the Navy sent a procurement team to Beloit in 1938, they found exactly what they expected. A factory that built small engines, farm equipment, industrial pumps, not warship power plants. The Navy had two proven contractors already. General Motors, massive corporation. The Winton division had been building marine diesels for years. Their V-16 was powerful, proven, 1,600 horsepower, complex, over 1,600 parts, but it worked. Then there was Hooven Owens Rentschler, HOR, innovative, aggressive. Their double-acting pancake engine had the best power-to-weight ratio anyone had ever seen. 2 power strokes per revolution, 9 cylinders, 1,535 horsepower. On paper, HOR was revolutionary. The Navy loved it. Fairbanks-Morse, the windmill company, they were the long shot. The Navy made a decision. Competition. Let all 3 contractors build engines. See which ones survived. Fleet service. General Motors got 40% of the contract. HOR got 30%. Fairbanks-Morse got 30%. Insurance. Redundancy. If one failed, the others would pick up the slack. The first HOR engines went into USS Salmon in 1938. The first Fairbanks-Morse engines went into testing the same year. The race was on. But nobody knew which engine would actually win. Nobody knew that within 5 years, one of these designs would be completely eliminated from the fleet. Nobody knew that the engine from the windmill factory would end up powering the most lethal submarine force in history. And nobody knew that on December 7, 1941, everything would change. Pearl Harbor, 7:48 a.m. Hawaiian time. The first bombs fell on Battleship Row. By 9:45 a.m. it was over. 2,400 Americans dead. 18 ships sunk or damaged. 164 aircraft destroyed. Arizona burned for 3 days. In Washington, the numbers were already being calculated. The Navy needed 200 new fleet submarines. Maybe more. Construction timelines. 2 years per boat. Engine production had to triple. Maybe quadruple. 3 contractors. 3 designs. Only one question mattered now. Which engine would survive the war? The answers would be written in the Pacific. In combat. In-depth charge attacks and 100-hour patrols, and engine rooms where the temperature hit 140 degrees, and the crew's lives depended on pistons and crankshafts and precision machining from a factory in Wisconsin. The answer would be written by women who'd never built an engine before, by submariners who'd never come home, and by an opposed-piston diesel that refused to quit. At first, the Navy had to learn a hard lesson. Innovation on paper doesn't mean reliability at war, and sometimes the best contractor is the one nobody believed in. USS Salmon, SS-188. Every engine room is a steel box, 30 feet long, 12 feet wide. Every surface is metal. Pipes run overhead like arteries. Gauges line the bulkheads. And in the center, taking up nearly all the space, sits the main engine. Hooven-Owens Rentschler, 9 cylinders, double-acting. The pancake design, most advanced submarine diesel in the world, on paper. The temperature gauge reads 138 degrees Fahrenheit. The engineman's shirt is soaked through. He's been on watch for 4 hours. 4 hours of noise. Heat, the constant vibration that rattles your teeth. Something's wrong. He hears it before he sees it. A grinding sound, metal on metal, wrong pitch, wrong rhythm. He kills the throttle. The engine winds down. Silence feels like a physical thing. Opens the inspection panel. The gear teeth are shearing off, little fragments of hardened steel scattered in the oil pan like broken glass. The internal gearing, the heart of the double-acting system, is destroying itself. USS Salmon limps back to Pearl Harbor. 3 months in port. The enemy is out there. The war is happening. And Salmon is going nowhere. It wasn't just Salmon. 20 submarines got HOR engines, 20 boats, 1,400 submariners. The newest, most sophisticated diesels the Navy could buy. They failed. USS Skipjack, gearing problems. USS Snapper, sealing failures. USS Sturgeon, overheating. The double-acting design, 2 power strokes per revolution, generated incredible heat. The internal mechanisms couldn't handle it. Engine room temperatures hit 140 degrees, 150. Men worked in conditions that would violate every labor law written. But this was war. You dealt with it until you couldn't. USS Gunnell, SS-253, November 1942, en route to England. Critical deployment. The boat is brand new, commissioned 3 months earlier. HOR engines, the latest model, supposed to be the best. 12 hours out of port, the starboard engine starts losing power. The engine men run diagnostics. Check the fuel system, the air intake, the cooling, everything. By hour 24, they've found the problem. The crosshead, the mechanism that connects the piston rod to the connecting rod, is seizing. The double-acting design requires precision machining. Tolerance is measured in thousandths of an inch. One part slightly out of spec, and the whole system binds. They nurse it, baby it, run at reduced power. It fails anyway. They arrive in England on 3 engines. 90. Days later, they're still there. Parts are on back order. The replacement components don't fit quite right. Nothing is standardized. Every repair is custom work. The crew gives the engines a nickname. It spreads through the submarine force like a virus. HOR, hell on repairs. But the real name submariners use is unprintable. Mare Island Navy Yard, Vallejo, California, April 1943. A submarine sits at the pier, has been sitting there for 8 months. 8 months. Most war patrols are 60 to 75 days. She could have done 3 patrols in the time she's been tied up. But her HOR engines are being rebuilt. Again, the engineering officer stands on the pier, smoking. She's 26, looks 40. His boat has never seen combat. Not one patrol. Not one Japanese ship. They've spent the entire war in port waiting for engines that work. He crushes the cigarette under his heel. Somewhere in the Pacific, men are dying. Submarines are hunting. The war is being fought, and he's stuck here. The numbers were kept quiet during the war. Classified, operational security. But after 1945, when the files were finally opened, the truth emerged. Bureau of Ships. Internal report, February 1943. Classified, 1990. HO, our engine mechanical failures, have directly contributed to the loss of an estimated 30 to 40 enemy ships that U.S. submarines could have engaged and sunk. Submarines equipped with HOR power plants averaged 12 days between major maintenance events, compared to 38 days for GM-equipped boats and 47 days for Fairbanks-Morse. Recommendation: immediate replacement program, 30 to 40 ships. How many tons of supplies never reached Japanese troops? How many soldiers went hungry? How many battles might have ended differently? The engineers at Houven Owens Rentschler had designed a beautiful engine, innovative, revolutionary, the best power-to-weight ratio ever achieved. But beautiful doesn't matter at war. Reliable does. By the end of 1943, the Navy stopped installing HOR engines. The boats that had them got them ripped out and replaced with General Motors engines, with Fairbanks-Morse engines, with engines that worked. 20 boats, millions of dollars, years of development, gone. The windmill factory's engine survived, and it was about to be tested like never before. Beloit, Wisconsin, January 1943. Teresa Kuykendall walks through the factory gates for the first time. She's 22 years old. Born in Cold Springs, Wisconsin, married at 16 to Clement Kuykendall. Moved to Beloit. They needed the money. Everyone needed money. She'd worked before. Tomato canning plant, long hours, low pay, seasonal work. But this is different. Fairbanks-Morse is hiring. The war needs engines. The men are gone. Navy, Army, Marines, the factory floor is emptying out, so they're hiring women. The foreman meets her at the door. He's 60. Too old for combat. Been with the company 30 years. He doesn't waste time. You ever run a lathe? No, sir. A drill press? No, sir. A milling machine? No, sir. He looks at her hands. Small, steady, you will. The training takes 2 weeks. They start with the basics, how to read a blueprint, how to use a micrometer, precision measurement, tolerances. She learns that in engine building, there is no such thing as close enough. 0.001 inches, 1/1000th of an inch. That's the tolerance on some parts. The diameter of 2 sheets of paper. Get it wrong and the engine fails. Get it wrong and sailors die. They don't say that part out loud, but everyone knows. Teresa's learns the lathe first, how to mount the workpiece, set the speed, feed the cutting tool. The metal peels away in long curls, hot enough to burn. She learns to feel the cut, to hear when the tool is biting right. Then the drill press, precision holes, exact depth, exact diameter. Then the milling machine, the most complex, cutting flats, slots, keyways, every measurement critical. She's good at it. Her hands are steady. Her measurements are exact. She doesn't rush, doesn't skip steps. Every piece gets checked 3 times. The foreman notices. Within a month, she's assigned to cylinder liners, the heart of the engine. The factory runs 2 shifts, 12 hours each, 6 days a week, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The floor is massive. Cathedral ceilings, rows of machine tools stretching into the distance. Lathes, mills, drill presses, grinders. Each station has a woman working it now. Some are Teresa's age, some are older, mothers, grandmothers. They wear blue cotton coveralls, standard issue. Fairbanks-Morse stamps the company name on the back. The fabric is rough, heavy. It gets soaked with cutting oil and metal dust. By the end of the shift, you can wring it out. Teresa gets 3 pairs. She washes them every night, hangs them to dry, patches them when they tear. She'll keep these coveralls for the rest of her life. The noise is constant. Machines running, metal cutting, tools clattering. You can't talk, can't think. You just work. But there's a rhythm to it, a music. The lathe spinning, the mill cutting, the drill press punching holes. Each machine has its own song. And when they're all running together, it sounds like purpose. It sounds like war production. The cylinder liner is a steel tube, 8 1/8 inches in diameter, 38 inches long. It sits in the engine block. The pistons move inside it, upper piston, lower piston, meeting in the middle. The tolerances are brutal. The inside diameter has to be precise to within 0.001 inches along the entire length. The surface finish has to be smooth enough that the piston rings seal perfectly, but rough enough that oil clings to the walls. Too smooth, and the engine seizes. Too rough, and it burns oil. Teresa's job is to finish machine the interior. She mounts the liner in the lathe, sets the cutting tool, runs it the full length, checks the diameter, adjusts, runs it again. She measures 6 times before she's satisfied. Every liner takes 90 minutes. She does 4 per shift, 12 cylinders per engine, 10-cylinder configuration for submarines. She's making enough liners for 1 engine every 3 shifts, 1 finished engine every day. That's the goal. The women of Beloit hit it in 1943 and held it every single day for 3 years. The quality control inspector is a man named Howard. He's 55. Failed his Navy physical, bad knees, so he builds engines instead. He checks every cylinder liner before it goes to assembly. Acrometer. 6 measurements along the length. If one is out of spec, even .002 inches, it gets rejected. Teresa has never had a liner rejected. Howard notices. One day, he pulls her aside during lunch break. "You're good at this," he says. "Thank you." "You know what these go into? Submarine engines." "You know what that means?" She doesn't answer. It means some sailor, some kid from Iowa or Texas or wherever, he's going to be 300 feet underwater, enemy destroyers overhead, depth charges going off, and his life is going to depend on whether that engine keeps running. He taps the liner she just finished. "This piece right here, you made it. Your measurements, your hands." That sailor's going to trust his life to this, you understand? Teresa nods. "Good," Howard says, "because you're doing it right." He walks away. Teresa goes back to her lathe. She measures 7 times on the next liner. The production numbers climb. 1942, 180 engines. 1943, 620 engines. 1944, 850 engines. The factory never stops. Day shift, night shift. The machines run 24 hours. The women rotate, but the work continues. By 1945, Beloit had 2 built 1,300 Fairbanks-Morse 38D818 engines, enough to power over 200 submarines. The defect rate is 0.02%. Industry standard is 2%. Beloit is 90 times better. General Motors, building engines in Cleveland with experienced male machinists, has a defect rate of 1.8%. The women in Wisconsin, most of whom had never seen a diesel engine before 1943, are beating the best male workforce in the country by a factor of 90. The Navy engineers study this, try to understand it. Their conclusion in a 1946 report, Beloit Production Quality, attributed to workforce pride and adherence to precision training protocols. Translation: the women cared. They knew what they were building. They knew who it was for. They knew what failure meant, so they didn't fail. Brisbane, Australia, December 31, 1942. Lieutenant Commander Dudley Walker Morton stands on the deck of USS Wahoo, SS-238, Gato-class submarine. Commissioned 7 months earlier, 2 war patrols completed, 0 enemy ships sunk. Morton is 35 years old, Kentucky native, Naval Academy class of 1930. His nickname is Mush, short for Mushmouth, a cartoon character he supposedly resembles. Big jaw, wide mouth, the kind of face that looks like it's grinning even when it's not. He just took command today. The previous captain, Marvin Kennedy, was relieved. Not aggressive enough, too cautious. The boat had been in combat zones, had opportunities, let them slip away. Morton is different. He's been watching, riding along as prospective commanding officer on Wahoo's 2nd patrol, seeing how Kennedy operated, how the crew responded, what the boat could do if someone pushed it. Now it's his boat, his crew, his war. The executive officer is Lieutenant Richard O'Kane, 29, from New Hampshire. He and Morton have a plan. Tomorrow, January 1, 1943, Morton will give a speech. It will become legend. The crew assembles topside. Over 80 men. Some are veterans. Most are kids, 19, 20, 22, from farms and factories in small towns all over America. They don't know what to expect from the new captain. Morton looks at them, doesn't smile, doesn't try to be friendly. "Wahoo is expendable," he says. The words hang in the humid air. "We're going hunting. We're going to find the enemy, and we're going to sink every ship we see. That means taking risks. Big ones. We might not come back." He pauses. "Anyone who wants off this boat, you've got 30 minutes to notify the yeoman. Request transfer. No questions asked. No negative reports. No shame. If you don't want to be here, I need to know now. Silence. Morton waits. Not one man moves. Good, Morton says. Wahoo gets underway 16 days later. USS Wahoo. Third War Patrol. January 16, 1943. The engines are Fairbanks-Morse, 4 of them. 10-cylinder configuration. 1,600 horsepower each. Built in Beloit. Some of them may be finished by Teresa Kuykendall. Maybe Howard checked the tolerances on the cylinder liners. Maybe a woman in blue coveralls measured the bore diameter 7 times before she was satisfied. The crew doesn't know any of that. They just know the engines run, day after day, hour after hour, half power, emergency speed, silent running, crash dives, surface runs. The engines never quit. January 24, 1943, Wewak Harbor, New Guinea. Wahoo has no charts, no official maps. The harbor is uncharted territory. Too shallow for submarines, too dangerous. Motor machinist's mate Dalton Keeter bought a school atlas in Australia, kid's geography book. It has a rough sketch of the coastline. That's what they're using. Morton doesn't care. He takes Wahoo into the harbor. Submerged. Hunting. Morton's 30 hours. Periscope depth. Morton spotvoy. 4 ships, freighters, transports, stores escort. He doesn't wait. Doesn't calculate. Doesn't second guess. Battle stations. Wahoo attacks. The boat shudders as the torpedoes leave the tubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 46 seconds. The first ship explodes. The destroyer turns. Opens fire. 5-inch guns. Rounds hit the water where Wahoo was 30 seconds ago. Morton dives. Deep. Orders the engines to flank speed. The Fairbanks-Morse diesels respond instantly. No hesitation. No failure. The destroyer follows. Sonar pinging. Closing. Then the depth charges start. A depth charge explosion underwater is not like anything on land. It's a pressure wave, a wall of force. The submarine hull flexes. Rivets pop. Light bulbs shatter. Men are thrown against bulkheads. The engine room crew hangs on. The engines keep running. Morton maneuvers. Changes depth. Changes course. Runs silent. Runs deep. The destroyer keeps hunting for 14 hours. 14 hours of cat and mouse. Of depth charges and evasion. Of machinery running at the edge of failure. The engines hold. Finally the destroyer gives up. Leaves. Wahoo surfaces. Morton sends a message to Pearl Harbor. It will become one of the most famous radio transmissions of the war. Another running gun battle today. Destroyer gunning, Wahoo running. They sink 3 more ships before the patrol ends. When Wahoo returns to Pearl Harbor on February 7, 23 days after leaving Brisbane, she's covered in victory markers. A broom is lashed to the periscope shears. Clean sweep. 8 small Japanese flags flutter from the signal halyard. 8 ships. The crew has hand-painted a banner. Shoot the sons of bitches. The Navy censors make them take it down before the press sees it. But the message is clear. Wahoo is not like other boats, and Mush Morton is not like other captains. 4th War Patrol. March 1943. Yellow Sea, 5th War Patrol. May 1943, Sea of Japan. Each patrol the same pattern. Find the enemy. Attack. Sink ships. Come home. The engines run without major failure. Minor maintenance between patrols. Oil changes. Filter replacements. Normal wear items. But the core engine, the opposed-piston design, the cylinder liners, the crankshafts, the connecting rods, holds up. Compare that to H. OR boats. 12 days average between major breakdowns. Compare that to the boats stuck in port. The crews watching the war from the sidelines. Wahoo's crew knows they're lucky. They don't know about Beloit. Don't know about Teresa. Don't know about the women who measured 7 times before they were satisfied. They just know their engines work. It's a poker, and in submarine warfare, that's the difference between life and death. 7th War Patrol. August 8, 1943. Wahoo departs Pearl Harbor, destination Sea of Japan, the most dangerous waters in the Pacific, the deepest penetration into enemy territory any American submarine has attempted. To get there, they have to transit La Perouse Strait between Hokkaido and Sakhalin, narrow, shallow, minute patrolled. Morton knows the risks. So does the crew. They go anyway. September 1943. Last contact. Wahoo reports sinking 4 ships in the Sea of Japan. then silence. October 11, 1943, a Japanese anti-submarine aircraft spots something in La Perouse Strait, a submarine, American. Trying to exit the Sea of Japan, the aircraft attacks. 3 depth charges, direct hits. The submarine doesn't surface, doesn't respond. Disappears from sonar, USS Wahoo, all 79 hands. Lieutenant Commander Dudley Walker Morton, Lieutenant Richard O'Kane, motor machinist mate Dalton Keeter, gone. The wreck was found in 2005, Russian-American expedition. 62 years after she went down. La Perouse Strait depth, 213 feet. The conning tower is destroyed. Direct bomb hit. That's what killed her. But the rest of the boat is remarkably intact, including the engines. 4 Fairbanks-Morse 38D 8-1 8 diesels. Built in Beloit, 1942. After 62 years underwater, they're still there. Still in place. The engineers who examined the wreck photos noted something. No catastrophic mechanical failure. No thrown rods. No seized as pistons. No grenaded crankshafts. The engines didn't fail. The boat was sunk by enemy action. But the engines were still good. Vice Admiral Charles Lockwood, Commander Submarine Force Pacific, 1960, asked to write the foreword for a book about Wahoo. Forrest Sterling's Wake of the Wahoo. Sterling was a crew member, one of the few who transferred off before the final patrol. Lockwood wrote, "When a natural leader and born daredevil such as Mush Morton is given command of a submarine, the result can only be a fighting ship of the highest order, with officers and men who would follow their skipper to the gates of hell." He paused, then added, and they did. The numbers tell the story. U.S. and war patrols, 5 under Morton. 19 confirmed ships sunk, 55,000 tons. 6 battle stars, presidential unit citation. Morton received 4 Navy Crosses, the last one posthumous. Richard O'Kane survived to command USS Tang. He'd go on to sink more enemy shipping than any other submarine captain in history. Medal of Honor. He always said Morton taught him how. And the engines. 4 Fairbanks-Morse diesels. Built by women in Wisconsin. Ran through 7 war patrols. Depth charge attacks. 100-hour runs, emergency speeds. Combat conditions that would destroy lesser machines. Never failed. Not once. Wahoo was one boat. 52 American submarines were lost in the Pacific. 3,505 submariners killed in action. 22% casualty rate. Highest of any branch of service. The ones who came home. The ones who survived depth charge runs and torpedo attacks and equipment failures. They owed their lives to engines that didn't quit. 288 submarines served in the Pacific. Most of the Gato-class and Balao-class boats ran Fairbanks-Morse engines, 9 or 10 cylinders, 1,600 horsepower. They sank 1,178 Japanese merchant ships, 4.9 million tons, 214 warships. 55% of all Japanese ships lost in the war went down to submarines, and most of those submarines were powered by engines from a windmill factory in Wisconsin, built by women who'd never seen a diesel before, by workers who measured 7 times, by machinists who understood that precision wasn't just a number. It was life and death. The war ended August 15, 1945. Teresa Kuykendall kept working. She'd stay at Fairbanks-Morse until 1960. 17 years. Through the post-war boom. Through the Cold War buildup. She never talked much about her war work. Most of the women didn't, but she kept the coveralls. All 3 pairs. Blue cotton. Fairbanks-Morse stamped on the back. Worn, patched, carefully repaired. She washed them. Folded them. Put them away. When she died in 2005, at 62 years after building her first cylinder liner, the coveralls were still there. Her family donated them to the Wisconsin Historical Society. Museum object number 2007, 92, 1. They're preserved now, occasionally displayed. A piece of American industrial history. The hands that built those engines are gone. The engines are still running. VJ Day, August 15, 1945. The announcement comes over the factory loudspeakers at 4:47 p.m. The war is over. Japan has surrendered. On the floor of Fairbanks-Morse, Beloit, Wisconsin, the machine stopped. For the first time in 3 years, there's silence. Teresa Kuykendall stands at her lathe. Cylinder liner half finished. She's 24 years old. She's been doing this job for 32 months. 2,300 engines. She doesn't know how many cylinder liners she personally machined. Thousands, tens of thousands maybe. Around her, the other women are crying, hugging, laughing. The war is over. Their husbands are coming home. Their sons, their brothers. Teresa just stands there. She thinks about the engines, the ones she built, the submarines they powered, the men who depended on them. She wonders how many came home. She'll never know the answer, but she folds her coveralls that night with the same care she always has, washes them, hangs them to dry. Tomorrow, she'll be back at the lathe. The war might be over, but the work isn't done. Factory doesn't shut down. Everyone expected it to. War production ends. Contracts get canceled. Rosie the Riveter goes home. That's how it's supposed to work. But Fairbanks-Morse keeps running. They pivot. Start building engines for civilian ships, for power generation, for industrial applications. The opposed-piston design that won the war now powers peacetime. Teresa stays on. So do hundreds of other women. Some quit. Go back to being homemakers. That's what the posters said they should do, what society expected. But not all of them. Teresa works another 15 years, until 1960, until she's 40 years old and pregnant with her first child. By then, she's been building engines longer than she's been doing anything else in her life. Her marriage to Clement ended in 1951. She remarried in 1953. Eugene Davis, they'll stay together. But the engines, the precision, the 3 measurements, and then 4 and then 7 because you had to be sure, that never leaves her. The engines go everywhere. Some stay in submarines. The Navy keeps building boats through the late 1940s and early 1950s. Diesel, electric, not nuclear yet. Those are still years away. Fairbanks-Morse 38D 818 engines power the Tang class, the most advanced diesel submarines America has ever built. At least they're supposed to. The Navy tries something new. EMD 16338 engines, electromotive division, General Motors, 16 cylinders arranged in a circle. Pancake engines, innovative, compact. They fail, catastrophically. Same problem HOR had a decade earlier. Innovation on paper, disaster in practice. So the Navy rips them out, replaces them with World War II-style Fairbanks-Morse engines. Proven, reliable, boring, the engines that work. But some engines take a different path. Fairbanks-Morse looks at the post-war market. Railroads are converting from steam to diesel. There's money there, opportunity. They adapt the 38D 818 for locomotives. It makes sense. The engine is powerful, compact, fuel efficient, everything railroads need. They build several models, the H1044 switcher, the H1544 road switcher, the massive Trainmaster, 6 axles, all powered by opposed-piston diesels. At first it works. The engines perform well in yard service, short runs, flat terrain, sea-level air. Then the railroads try them in mainline service, western routes, high altitude, hot temperatures, dry air. The engines start failing. Lower piston temperatures. The exhaust ports are near the bottom pistons. In submarines, cold seawater cooled them. In locomotives, especially at altitude, they run too cool. The pistons crack. Cylinder liners wear unevenly. Replacing a power assembly in a submarine, relatively simple. The engine is accessible. Sea-level pressure, controlled environment. Replacing a power assembly in a locomotive, nightmare. You need a crane. Have to lift the entire roof off, pull the upper crankshaft, remove the upper pistons, then reverse the process. 8 hours, sometimes more. The railroad maintenance supervisors hate them. By 1963, Fairbanks-Morse exits the locomotive business. The engine that powered the most successful submarine force in history can't handle the American West. It's a humbling lesson. The right tool for the right job. Always. There's a twist. The Soviet Union is watching. After the war, they get their hands on a Fairbanks-Morse engine. Nobody knows exactly how. Captured equipment, Lend-Lease surplus, espionage, probably all 3. Soviet engineers reverse engineer it. They create the 2D-100, direct descendant of the 38D-81. Same opposed piston design, same basic architecture. Modified for their needs, they put it in a locomotive. The TE-3, it works. The TE-3 becomes the first mass-produced Soviet diesel locomotive. They build 7,600 of them, 7,600. They run all over the USSR, Siberia, Central Asia, everywhere. The engine that couldn't handle Wyoming handles Siberia just fine. Later they developed the 10D-100, turbocharged version. More power. It goes into the 210 series, thousands more locomotives. Some are still running today. In Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, an engine designed in Wisconsin in the 1930s, built by American women in the 1940s, reverse engineered by the Soviets in the 1950s, still working in 2026. You can't make this up. The nuclear age arrives. January 17, 1955. SSN 571, first nuclear-powered submarine. She signals, underway on nuclear power, the diesel-electric era is over, or so everyone thinks. But there's a problem. Nuclear reactors are reliable, incredibly reliable. But they're not perfect. They need maintenance. They can have problems. And when you're 200 feet underwater, 300 miles from land, you need a backup. You need a diesel generator. The Navy looks at their options. General Motors, good engines, proven but complex. Fairbanks-Morse, the 38D-818 updated version, designated 38ND-81, same basic design. Improved materials, tighter tolerances, better seals. The Navy runs the numbers. Fairbanks-Morse engines have been in continuous production since 1938. 17 years, thousands built. Defect rates still below 0.1%. No catastrophic failures in fleet service. The choice is obvious. Every nuclear submarine gets a Fairbanks-Morse backup diesel. Every single one. USS Los Angeles, SSN 688, commissioned 1976. Deep in her hull, below the reactor compartment, sits a diesel generator. Fairbanks-Morse 38ND-818. Same engine that powered Wahoo. Same design that Teresa Kuykendall built cylinder liners for. 33 years later, still the best option. The Los Angeles class runs from 1976 to 1996. 62 boats. Everyone has a Fairbanks-Morse backup. Then the Seawolf-class. 3 boats, 1997 to 2005, Fairbanks-Morse. Then the Ohio-class, 18 boats, ballistic missile submarines. The most powerful warships ever built. Each one carries 24 Trident missiles. Each missile can destroy a city, and each one has a Fairbanks-Morse diesel as backup power. In 2026, 42 American nuclear submarines are in active service. 42 boats, all with Fairbanks-Morse backup diesels. An engine designed 88 years ago. Still trusted, still working, still the standard. Beloit, Wisconsin. 2024. The city hasn't changed much. Population 36,000, up from 28,000 in 1945. Modest growth. The kind of place that doesn't make headlines. The old Fairbanks-Morse factory is mostly gone. Parts of it demolished. Parts converted to other uses. The massive floor where Teresa worked no longer exists, but on the edge of town, there's a modern facility, FM Defense, successor company to Fairbanks-Morse, part of Arcline Investment Management now. But the lineage is clear. They still build opposed-piston engines, 550 employees. They still train machinists to the same standards, precision. Tolerances measured in thousands. 3 measurements, then 4, then 7 if you need to be sure. They still build engines for the U.S. Navy. And on November 20, 2023, a literal combat ship was commissioned. USS Beloit, LCS-29, named for the city that built the engines that won the war. San Francisco. Pier 45, today. The morning fog is lifting when the school group arrives. 25 kids, middle school, 8th grade. Their teacher brings them every year. They tour USS Pampanito. The submarine was commissioned November 6, 1943. Mare Island Navy Yard. Balao-class. She made 6 war patrols, sank 6 Japanese ships, rescued 73 Allied Piabios from the water after a convoy battle. She survived the war. In 1982, she became a museum ship. The kids crowd into the engine room. It's cramped, hot. Even with the engines off, you can feel the ghosts of heat and noise and men working 12-hour watches. 4 diesel engines dominate the space. Fairbanks-Morse 38D-818, built 1943. Beloit, Wisconsin. The tour guide is a volunteer, retired submariner. He served on diesel boats in the 1960s. Different era, same engines. These engines, he says, are 81 years old. The kids don't look impressed. 81 years isn't much when you're 13. Let me show you something, he says. He goes through the startup procedure, checks the oil, opens the fuel line, sets the controls, reaches for the starter. First turn compression stroke, second turn cylinder 1 fires. The engine coughs, black smoke, then it catches, settles into a steady rhythm, purr of pistons, whir of crankshafts. 81 years old, runs like new. One of the kids, a boy maybe 14, steps closer. How? He asks. The volunteer smiles, built right the first time. Portland, Oregon. Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. USS Blueback. SS-581. Barbell-class submarine. The last diesel-electric attack submarine commissioned by the U.S. Navy in service from 1959 to 1990. Now a museum ship. Her engines are Fairbanks-Morse, 3 decades newer than Pampanitos. But the same basic design, same opposed pistons, same architecture. They still run. Visitors can see them, touch them, understand what an engine room was like. The tour guides tell the story. The windmill factory, the women workers, the engines that wouldn't quit. Most visitors are older, veterans, families of veterans, people who remember, or people who want to remember. Arlington National Cemetery, Section 65, there's a memorial, black granite, names etched in gold, submarines on eternal patrol. 52 boats, 3,505 men. USS Grunion, lost July 1942. 70 men. USS Wahoo, lost October 1943, 79 men. USS Tang, lost October 1944, 78 men, 9 survivors. USS Swordfish, lost January 1945, 89 men. The list goes on, row after row, name after name. 22% casualty rate, highest of any service. They knew the risks. They went anyway. Some of them came home because their engines kept running, because a woman in Wisconsin measured the cylinder bore 7 times, because a factory that made windmills decided to build for precision instead of profit. Some of them didn't come home at all. They're not forgotten. Wisconsin Historical Society, Madison, climate-controlled storage, acid-free boxes, careful preservation, museum object, 2007, 92-1, 3 pairs of blue cotton coveralls, Fairbanks-Morse stamped on the back, worn, patched, carefully repaired with darning. Teresa Kuykendall's coveralls, born November 22, 1920, died 2005, 84 years old. Worked at Fairbanks-Morse from 1943 to 1960. Learned lathes, drills, milling machines, built cylinder liners for submarine engines, measured 7 times because you had to be sure. The coveralls are displayed occasionally. Rosie the Riveter exhibitions, industrial history, women's history, American history. People see them, touch the glass case, read the placard. Most move on, but some stop. Some understand what these coveralls represent. Not just a woman who worked in a factory, not just a piece of clothing, but a time when America needed something built right, and built it, with precision, with pride, with hands that understood the difference between close enough and perfect, with people who knew that somewhere, someone's life depended on their work, and who made sure it was done right. The numbers tell a story. 1938 to 2026, 88 years. Fairbanks-Morse 38D, 818 opposed-piston diesel engine. Continuous production. Longest continuously manufactured engine in U.S. military history. 2,300 built during World War II. Thousands more since. Defect rate in war production, 0.02%. 0 catastrophic failures in fleet submarine service. Powered approximately 150 submarines in the Pacific. Those submarines sank 1,178 Japanese merchant ships, 214 warships, shortened the war by an estimated 1 year, saved countless American lives. 42 nuclear submarines currently in service with Fairbanks-Morse backup diesels. Still in production, still trusted, still working. The engine that wouldn't quit. There's a question embedded in this story. You can hear it in the silence of the Pampanito engine room. You can see it in Teresa's coveralls behind museum glass. You can feel it when that 81-year-old engine fires up on the second turn. The question is simple. Could we do this today? Could we take a company that makes windmills and turn it into a defense contractor that builds the most reliable submarine engines in history? Could we train women who've never seen a diesel engine and have them outperform the best male machinists by a factor of 90? Could we design something in 1938 and have it still be the best option in 2026? Could we build something to last 88 years? Not just last. Excel. Remain the standard. The trusted choice. The question hangs there. Maybe you know the answer. Maybe your generation knows what it took. The precision, the pride, the understanding that quality wasn't negotiable, that close enough meant failure, that somewhere, someone's life depended on your work. Maybe you remember when American manufacturing meant the best in the world. Not the cheapest, not the fastest, the best. USS Pampanito, engine room. Today, the Volunteer shuts down engine number 3. The rhythmic purr fades, silence returns. He runs his hand along the engine block. The metal is warm. Not hot, just warm. Exactly as it should be. Built 1943, 81 years, billions of piston strokes, thousands of startups, still runs perfectly. He thinks about the people who built it, the women in blue coveralls, the inspectors who checked every measurement, the engineers who designed it, the machinists who made it real. Most of them are gone now. Teresa died in 2005. The engineers who adapted the Junkers design, gone. The Navy inspectors who approved the first production run, gone. Mush Morton and the crew of Wahoo, 79 men on eternal patrol. But the engine remains. Still working. Still proving what American manufacturing could do when it mattered, when we needed to, when we understood that excellence wasn't optional, when we built things to last. There's a visitor comment book on the bulkhead. People write in it. Thoughts, memories, questions. September 2024. Someone wrote, I'm 82. My father built engines at Fairbanks-Morse during the war. He never talked about it much, just said he did his part. I never understood what that meant until today. Seeing these engines still running, knowing they saved lives, now I understand. Thank you for preserving this. November 2024, someone else brought my grandson, age 10. Wanted him to see what we could build, what we were, what we could be again if we remembered how. December 2024, Navy veteran, USS Blueback, 1986-1989. These engines, same design, powered my boat 40 years after the war. Still reliable, still trusted. We don't build like this anymore. We should. The pages are full of these. Memories, pride, grief for what was lost, hope for what could be again. Black screen. White text appears, slow, deliberate. In memory of the 3 505 submariners who rest on eternal patrol, also USS Amberjack, USS Crichton, not USS Pramberkel, USS Grenadier, USS Triton, USS SR-12, USS Grayling, USS Pompano, USS Cis Grayling, USS Pompano, USS Cisco, USS Wahoo, USS Sculpin, USS Sculpin, USS Scorpion, USS Sculpin, USS Scorpion, USS Escalar, USS Albacore, USS Growler, USS Swordfish, USS Legardo, USS Bonefish, USS Bullhead, and 42 more. 52 submarines, never forgotten. And in gratitude to the women of Beloit, Wisconsin, who built the engines that brought some of them home, Teresa Kuykendall and thousands like her, who measured 7 times, who understood that precision was life and death, who knew that somewhere someone depended on their work, who did it right. Final image, USS Pampanito. Engine number 3, Fairbanks-Morse 38D-818, built 1943. Beloit, Wisconsin. The engine that wouldn't quit, still running 88 years later. American manufacturing. When we needed to, when it mattered, when we built things to last. Fade to black. The engine's rhythm echoes steady, eternal, unquiet. A promise kept across nearly a century. We built this right, and it's still running.